Θέλω να καλέσω για το καλωσόρισμα στο βήμα την κυρία Ευγενία Αλεξανδροπούλου-Αιγυπτιάδου, πρόεδρο του Μεγάρου Μουσικής Θεσσαλονίκης. I would like to invite Eugenia Alexandropoulou-Egyptiadou, the president of the Thessaloniki Concert Hall.
Thank you all for being here. Αξιότιμε κύριε Γενικέ Πρόξενε, Your Honorable Consul General of the United States, αξιότιμοι εκπρόσωποι του Βρετανικού Συμβουλίου, του Μουσείου Benaki, αξιότιμε πρόεδρε του Μόμους, υψηλοί προσκεκλημένοι, κυρίες και κύριοι, με πολύ μεγάλη χαρά καλωσορίζουμε σήμερα στο Μέγαρο Μουσικής Θεσσαλονίκης το 13ο συνέδριο CoMuseum με θέμα «Μουσεία και δικαιοσύνη», τους εκπροσώπους των μουσείων και του πολιτισμού και ομάδες της κοινωνίας των πολιτών. Το θέμα του συνεδρίου αγγίζει ένα πολύ ευαίσθητο και επίκαιρο ζήτημα, ένα αίτημα που αναδεικνύεται κυρίαρχο στην εποχή μας και όχι μόνο, γιατί εδώ και πάρα πολλά χρόνια στόχος της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης είναι ακριβώς αυτό, δηλαδή σεβασμός, ενσωμάτωση των αρχών της διαφορετικότητας, της ισότητας, της συμπερίληψης και της προσβασιμότητας στη λειτουργία και στις υπηρεσίες που προσφέρουν τα μουσεία και οι πολιτιστικοί χώροι εν γέννη. Εκτός από υποχρέωση της πολιτείας, η διευκόλυνση της συμμετοχής όλων των ανθρώπων σε κάθε πτυχή της δημόσιας ζωής συνιστά και θεμέλιο λίθο της δημοκρατίας και της κοινωνικής συνοχής. Για όλους όσους υπηρετούν το χώρο του πολιτισμού, το συνέδριο αυτό έχει ένα σημαντικό ειδικό βάρος, καθώς εστιάζει στη δημιουργία ενός ανθρωποκεντρικού μοντέλου που δίνει βαρύτητα εξίσου στους ανθρώπους και στα αντικείμενα της τέχνης. Ως εξωστρεφής χώρος πολιτισμού, με κοινωνική ενσυναίσθηση, το Μέγαρο Μουσικής Θεσσαλονίκης είναι απολύτως συντονισμένο με τη θεματολογία του συνεδρίου. Με τη συμμετοχή του στα προγράμματα του Ταμείου Ανάκαμψης, ο οργανισμός μας θα βελτιώσει την προσβασιμότητα με έμφαση στην άρση των υφιστάμενων εμποδίων, ιδιαίτερα σε άτομα με αναπηρία και μειωμένη κινητικότητα. Στόχος των παρεμβάσεων είναι η αύξηση της προσβασιμότητας και επισκεψιμότητας με προσέλκυση περισσότερων ατόμων με αναπηρία και εν γέννη εμποδιζόμενων ατόμων, αλλά και η καλύτερη εξυπηρέτησή τους στο Μέγαρο Μουσικής Θεσσαλονίκης. Είναι ένα πολύ σημαντικό έργο με θετικό κοινωνικό πρόσημο, το οποίο υλοποιείται υπό την αιγίδα του Υπουργείου Πολιτισμού, το οποίο και ευχαριστούμε. Επίσης, ευχαριστούμε την Υπουργό, την κυρία Λίνα Μενδώνη, τον Υφυπουργό, τον κύριο Δήμα, καθώς και τη Γενική Γραμματέα, την κυρία Δουδουλάκη. Πιστεύουμε κι εμείς ότι ο πολιτισμός είναι το κατεξοχήν προνομιακό πεδίο για την εφαρμογή της επανορθωτικής, αποκαταστατικής δικαιοσύνης, ώστε να εξαλειφθούν οι ανισότητες και οι διακρίσεις και να διασφαλιστεί η ανεμπόδιστη και ισότιμη πρόσβαση όλων των ανθρώπων στην τέχνη και επί ίσης όρης απόλαυση των πολιτιστικών αγαθών. Συγχαίρουμε όλους τους συνδιοργανωτές του συνεδρίου, όλους όσους είστε εδώ, νομίζω και η Αντιδήμαρχος Πολιτισμού, και βέβαια να πούμε ότι για πρώτη φορά παρουσιάζεται διαζώσεις ένα τέτοιο συνέδριο στη Θεσσαλονίκη και με μεγάλη χαρά το φιλοξενούμε. Θεωρούμε ότι είναι ένα σημαντικό βήμα για τη βελτίωση της κινητικότητας στο πολιτιστικό γίγνεσθε, καθώς και στις συνεργασίες μεταξύ των πολιτιστικών φορέων της Ελλάδας και του εξωτερικού. Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ όλους. Καλά αποτελέσματα στο συνέδριο και αν ξέχασα κάποιον να προσφωνήσω, ας με συγχωρήσει. Καλή επιτυχία στο συνέδριο.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ την κυρία Αλεξανδροπούλου-Αιγυπτιάδου. Thank you very much for the welcome and thank you especially for hosting the CoMuseum. I would like to invite now His Excellency Jerry Ismail, U.S. Consul General in Thessaloniki, to give us his greeting.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 13th Annual CoMuseum International Conference. I am honored to be here today, along with so many distinguished guests and panelists and visitors from Greece, the United States, and all around the world. I want to offer my thoughts today on the development of museums over time, and more importantly, talk about the role museums can play in creating a more just and inclusive world. But before we get started, I wanted to say a round of thank yous, my deep thanks and gratitude to Professor Alexandropoulou for hosting us at this beautiful museum, Director Karagianni, Vice Mayor Karagianni for the municipality support for the conference, Ms. Papaioannou, Director Papaioannou for the British Council, and thank you for your long-standing partnership as I put on my glasses, and Dr. Handaka. It's a pleasure to meet you, and I look forward to meeting you at the Benaki Museums in January. I would like to also thank all of our international speakers who came so far to be with us today. From the United States, I'd like to specifically point out Mr. Micah Parzan from the Museum of Us and Director Sarah Schleining. Thank you for all of the efforts you have made for many years to build a more inclusive and just museum system in the United States of America. I also want to take a quick moment, if I could. I'm sorry, the panel here doesn't allow me to put my notes here, so I'll just leave them down, to congratulate the government of Greece, the city of Thessaloniki, and the Jewish community here for the great strides and progress that they have made over the last numerous years to come very close now to the finalization of the process for building the Holocaust Museum of Greece. As I understand it, all the permits are just about final, and the groundbreaking could happen as soon as the first quarter of next year. So that is a story that needs to be told for all humanity's sake, and I applaud you for your efforts. Now, I want to turn for a second and, as I mentioned, talk about the developments of museums through the years. As I see it, growing up in the great state of New York in the United States, I observed three sort of broad phases of museums. As I sort of grew up, I saw the first phase being sort of what I would call the industrialist phase. That was where museums were really more like the private collections of very wealthy people, the elites, the tycoons, the captains of industry, and the political dynasties of the land. And those collections were mainly being kept for them, to be shown only to them, and I would say a very select group of chosen brethren at the time. They were not really available more widely than that. But fortunately, I feel like in the second phase, what happened was a reversal of fortunes, a reversal of sorts, which was that many of these elites entered the era of bequestments and bequeathed their collections to public partnerships and institutions. And what was once the province of only the wealthy and the elites, now for the very first time became available and accessible to the broader public for really the very first time in human history. And that's an amazing turn of good fortune. So I think we've witnessed that. Just imagine being a visitor from anywhere in the world and having the fascination or awe of being in the cathedrals of knowledge in New York City. Just think about the Metropolitan Museum, if you've been there, or the MoMA, or the Museum of Natural History, and seeing the human story being told in a way really for the first time that everyone could appreciate. But now I think we're at the third cusp of the third phase, and that's how can we tell the story more inclusively? How can we make sure that the story that we are telling in museums, in the family of knowledge institutions, how can we tell that more accurately, more inclusively, and be together? And I want to talk about that here, just spend a moment on that, and say that, museums really are actively seeking to incorporate different points of view, and that's the most important difference. Rather than passively displaying something, how can museums actively, the directors, the procurers, the curators, how can they proactively seek out differences of opinion, different voices in different rooms coming together to talk, to discuss, to even argue about what needs to be displayed and how to do that most justly. For not only do I see museums really as a house of knowledge and institution of really higher learning for all of humanity, but museums play a role, I think, in the search for justice and in the search for healing. And I don't think it's too far afield to say that museums have the capacity to bring not only everyone together from different backgrounds and different countries, but different perspectives and different perceptions, and make sure that those stories can be told, and told well and accurately and fairly. And I would just pause here and say this really expands across the full life cycle of the museum procurement process. So it's not just in the stories that we tell and how we tell it. It's in the people that we hire. It's in the viewpoints that we consider. It's in whether we should show this point of view only, or is there an alternate point of view? It's really to acknowledge people and give them the dignity, what I call the dignity of acknowledgement. So even that somebody who is challenged by the official story or the predominant view has a chance to come away from an exhibit a bit more human, a bit more in touch with other points of view, and can hopefully offer their own point of view intellectually in return. I would say museums and libraries, like the one I was in yesterday in Verrières, are oftentimes on the forefront of creating more socially inclusive spaces. There are many ways to do this, as I saw yesterday, that are creative, innovative, and really thoughtful for serving the community. What I wanted to say, though, is there is one surefire way to do this, and that is really to adopt and promote the principles in practice of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. For therein lies the greatest human story to be told, and that's really the story of all of us. Not some of us, but all of us. As we know, I think we can all acknowledge history is kind of messy. It's complicated, it's complex, and it can never be told with just one voice. And I think museums and libraries are doing an incredible job on being the pioneers and paving the way for a more inclusive and just view of the world. I just want to conclude by saying, while I offer these comments to you on a personal note, I would say that they're not just a best practice. These are what I consider a moral imperative. This is what defines us as nations and as societies, and how we can improve in the constant search for improvement. We do not have a perfect past. We do not have a perfect track record. We must look into that and always seek to find ways to improve our story, improve our inclusivity. So I would offer to you that the principles of DEIA, what we call DEIA in the United States, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, really are a moral imperative and a defining value set of our time. What I want to say in conclusion is that museums are places of inclusivity. We can make them even more inclusive through our collective work. We want to make sure that they are places where everyone can feel welcomed and valued and challenged, intellectually challenged, and even where those who find themselves in conflict with the prevailing points of view of history, and perhaps even were denied justice in history, can find their own dignity and comfort and solace and wisdom in their visit. It is our job collectively to help them get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, U.S. Consul. I think you said it all. You've basically introduced the subject. I don't even need to say anything later on. I'd like to invite over Maria Karagianni, the Deputy Mayor for Culture and Tourism from the Municipality of Thessaloniki.
Good morning, kalimera. Dear organizers, esteemed participants, and respected attendants, I extend a warm welcome to 13th International CoMuseum Conference in Thessaloniki, themed Museums and Justice. My academic background in Greece lies in chemistry, and I spent my professional years in the banking sector. In recent years, I've been involved in politics, becoming a part of administration in Thessaloniki. Moreover, I've served as a deputy mayor of culture and tourism for nearly 4 years, overseeing an active department organizing numerous cultural and artistic events, and experience both challenging and unique. Allow me, beyond the customary conference salutation, to contribute more substantively based on my experience as a deputy mayor of culture. I would like to share some examples of my perspective on the concept of justice within the cultural sphere. Through this journey, I've understood that culture encompasses not only artworks and cultural wealth, but also the process of cultivating a just and balanced environment where art and culture can flourish and communicate to the audience. An honest, open to all, fair and creative management of culture. Certainly, the questions appear nearly rhetorical, and the answer is quite clear. If places centered around culture and art involve people with intellect and social awareness, don't uphold justice and equality, whereas should be expected to fight these principles. With confidence in the conference's thorough exploration of justice in relation to diversity and inclusion in museums and the cultural sphere, I would like to present a distinct perspective on the concept of justice through two specific cases. The first concerns the organization of the Open Theatre stage of the city. It's an event that has entered its second decade in the cultural life of Thessaloniki. Following evaluation and selection, professional theatre groups from Thessaloniki participate, presenting their works. However, these years, something special happened. The few members theatre committee, consisting of dedicated academics with recognized expertise and experience, knowledge in the theatre, has collaborated with the municipality's cultural department to implement a substantial organizational change. 2 large open calls were made to all city theatre professionals for information and interest exploration. These meetings lead to a kind of consultation on issues related to supporting local artists and the course of theatre production in Thessaloniki. Despite this, we received more than 3 times the number of applications compared to the previous years, and significantly more than any other year in the event's history. Exceptionally, intriguing proposals emerged from diverse artists, some of which were still in the developmental stages. All participating groups were invited for interviews with the committee, giving them the opportunity to present their proposals live and respond to questions. For those groups unable to attend in person, we conducted interviews online. What was the result? This year was a big win. We had more participants and audiences than ever before, top quality performances, remarkable diversity and pluralism. Everything was clear and transparent, especially in the final artistic selection, a step towards fairness and justice, outward-looking and transparent. In the other case, concerning the organization of the Summer Festival, I have the following to share with you. The Summer Festival, a relatively new cultural institution, features events such as concert and theatre performances held at the Municipal Garden Theatre during the summer nights, as the name of the festival implies. A big part of the festival includes youth concerts with rock, rap, trap, and hip-hop groups. As the Deputy Mayor of Culture, responsible for organizing the festival, faced persistent questions from journalists about certain lyrics expected to be heard at a concert by a highly popular, among the young audience, rap artist. The lyrics were indeed bold, critical, and aggressive toward political figures and various situations. A television channel from Athens even contacted me, inquiring whether I might issue an order to cancel the concert. To be honest, despite my internal concerns, the thought of censorship never crossed my mind. The concert went ahead without any issues. Nevertheless, the incident made me think more deeply on the boundaries and the form of artistic expression, as well as the importance of respecting the right to freedom of speech and the right of our younger generation to express themselves in different ways. Whether there should be any framework for limitation and boundaries, and if so, who holds this possibility for establishing them? At which exact point do justice, general well-being, and art align? When do they work together, and when are they in conflict? These are two instances symbolize just a small attempt to explore some of the diverse aspects of justice within cultural spaces. To the questions that may come up, it's important to attempt to find answers, even when the answers are not straightforward or guaranteed to really exist. Thank you for your attention. We wish you a productive and enjoyable conference.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would like now to invite our dear friend and partner in the CoMuseum, Maria Papaioannou, who is Head of the Arts at the British Council.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, everyone. Kalimera. I'm going to speak in English because we have a lot of international speakers with us today, and we have also an international audience. Dear U.S. Consul General, dear Deputy Mayor for Culture and Tourism, dear President of Thessaloniki Concert Hall, dear speakers, dear guests. We have been organizing CoMuseum for the last 12 years in partnership with the Benaki Museum and the U.S. Embassy in Greece, and since 2020, it has become a hybrid event with an online presence and an international audience of more than 1,000 people each year, sharing innovative ideas and practices, addressing global challenges, and establishing a global network of professionals dedicated to shaping the future of our societies through arts and culture. This year's conference is also organized in collaboration with the Norwegian Embassy in Greece, the Thessaloniki, of course, Concert Hall, Collectiva for Social Innovation and Culture, and it's under the auspices of the Hellenic Ministry of Culture and Sports, the Municipality of Athens and Thessaloniki, and ICOM Greece. This year's conference is focusing on justice, and over the course of the last 2 days, we have been exploring the role of museums in terms of challenging inequality, but also we were trying to identify ways in which museums can exercise their power towards challenging the status quo. Museums have a unique opportunity to give voice to the ones who have been excluded for many years from the public discourse. They are spaces of democratic debate and can challenge inequality and address different social injustices, such as the refugee crisis, poverty, and the grave human rights violation amongst them. As the Museum Association in the UK states, museums have a responsibility to work with their communities to overcome the challenges of poverty and exclusion and to achieve equality of outcomes. CoMuseum Conference is an integral part of the British Council's Museums Revisited program in Europe, and therefore we are very happy, apart from the UK and the US speakers every year, to have more European speakers from major European museums attending the conference each year. We are always striving to enhance the skills and the opportunities for museum professionals, foster dialogue between British, European, and American museums, of course, establish new networks and partnerships, and influence policy changes related to the role of museums in society and local development. It is the core of our work to create networks and build partnerships between our respective countries, as well as ignite conversations, questions paradigms, and point out new ways of working. Our experts today, our esteemed speakers from the UK, the US, and Europe, and Greece, of course, will share case studies on museums engaging with social justice via their collections and practice and within the workforce, and we will all together seek to build a consensual space for sharing through honest conversations and reflection. I would like you to enjoy the conference, share your insights, and of course, thank you all for being here. It is our honor.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you all for being here. My name is Sophia Handaka. I'm a curator at the Benaki Museum and also co-founder and host of the CoMuseum. The fact that I'm here in the Megaro Concert Hall welcoming you is an honor for me, and it's an honor because it's, this is the concept of the CoMuseum, to be something collaborative, and we really feel at home here, so thank you, Megaro, for hosting the CoMuseum. Thank you for the host. Before I say a few words about the subject, because already, you get an idea for what we wish to discuss, I want to give you some quick house rules. For our online friends, welcome. If you have any questions, you can put them on the chat, and I will be informed somehow, and I will ask them to our speakers. The people who are here, we have our volunteers who will give you the mic if you have any questions. Please be respectful of time and of others when you pose your questions. And we have no break, so we're going to go all the way through. I'm going to try to be strict with time. This year, this is my new resolution. We're very happy to be here. I'm going to say a few words about the subject. Now, the choice of the topic arises from the ever-increasing needs of the museum community internationally to participate in the dialogue, but also act on issues of representation, of equal treatment and accessibility in museums through their strategic planning, their programming, the methodology of their practices. With content co-curators, Elena Alexaki and Maria Papaioannou from the British Council and the US Embassy, the other way around, we wanted to convey this urgency in the title of using the most powerful words. Hence, we decided to use the word justice in the sense of being fair, in the sense of social justice. As we further read and you'll hear from our speakers, seeking to contribute to social equity and social justice is demonstrated in a great range of actions, whether they relate to the mission and vision of cultural organizations, to personnel and inclusion, to our collections, if we are museums, to engagement with the communities, but also to serving the different publics of cultural organizations. The point and common thread is that we, as cultural professionals, as individuals and as institutions, must commit into acting rather than just reacting upon matters of social justice and equal treatment. As we said on Wednesday again, every year the CoMuseum theme elaborates on previous knowledge and current community needs. This year's focus on justice bridges past representations with current and future urgencies that we see out there in society, opening a gateway to exploring the degree to which museums, cultural organizations, and the people who work in, for, and through culture can contribute to matters of justice, how to cultivate and implement inclusive attitudes and practices. As museums are becoming more people-centered, this element of inclusivity is fundamental in the character and their purpose, and their relevance to society. So we're here to explore our commitment as institutions and as people to support and defend those principles that we hear more and more. And it's important to utter and use the words of those principles and values of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility through cultural means. So thank you very much for being here, our online friends internationally. Welcome to the third day of the 13th CoMuseum International Conference.